Hello and welcome. This is Notibot ENG. Good evening. I'm your anchor, Name, and this is our evening news recap. Tensions in the Middle East are escalating, with a new development in the ongoing Iran war. The United States has announced plans to blockade the Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway, after peace talks with Iran failed. Meanwhile, Iran warns that such a move would be a violation of the ceasefire. We'll take you through the latest on this developing story, including the implications for civilian lives and global trade. Let's get started. As the world watches the devastating impact of the Iran conflict unfold, one shocking reality is emerging. Civilian lifelines are being used as leverage. The ongoing conflict between the U.S. and Israel on Iran and Lebanon has led to a significant escalation in the use of civilian infrastructure as bargaining currency. The most revealing moment came with the April 8th ceasefire, which not only paused threatened attacks, but also marked a shift in the way civilian life is treated in the conflict. The region had already crossed a line, where civilian life was no longer just exposed to war, but was being dragged into the logic of negotiation. The use of civilian infrastructure as leverage is a new development in the conflict. Electricity, water, and transport systems were not treated merely as tragic collateral damage after military action, but were openly framed in advance as pressure points. Systems whose destruction might force concessions, accelerate talks, or change the terms on which a ceasefire could be reached were prioritized. This shift matters because it marks the normalization of a doctrine in which civilian survival becomes part of the bargaining process itself. The involvement of Donald Trump, the former U.S. president, in threatening to destroy bridges and electric power plants in Iran if Tehran did not meet his deadline over Hormuz, is a prime example of this. The Iranian response, threatening to target Persian Gulf energy and water systems, further underscores the use of civilian infrastructure as leverage. The normalization of this doctrine raises concerns about the long-term implications for the region. The use of civilian infrastructure as bargaining currency can have far-reaching consequences, including the potential for further escalation and destabilization. As the conflict continues to play out, it is essential to understand the implications of this shift in the conflict dynamics. Breaking developments in the Middle East, where tensions escalate as Iran threatens severe consequences over a U.S. naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. The situation in the Middle East continues to escalate as tensions rise between the U.S. and Iran. In a statement earlier today, the U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, announced that it will begin a blockade of Iranian ports at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, citing concerns over Iran's nuclear program. This move is seen as a significant escalation of the conflict and has sparked a reaction from Iranian officials. Iran's top negotiator, Saeed Jalali, has condemned the U.S. blockade, warning that it would violate the terms of a fragile ceasefire. Jalali stated that we will not bow to threats and that Iran will continue to pursue its nuclear program. The blockade, if implemented, would have significant economic consequences for Iran, which is one of the world's largest oil producers. The U.S. blockade is also being seen as a response to the failure of recent talks between the U.S. and Iran. The two sides had held 21 hours of negotiations in Pakistan, but were unable to reach an agreement. The U.S. President, Donald Trump, has been critical of the talks, saying that they were a total failure. Trump has also taken aim at Pope Francis, who has been critical of the U.S. war in Iran. The Pope has denounced the delusion of omnipotence as fueling the conflict and has called for political leaders to stop and negotiate peace. The situation remains highly volatile, and the international community is watching closely to see how events unfold. As tensions escalate in the Middle East, President Trump's latest move has sent shockwaves, sparking fears of a major conflict in the region. Good evening. I'm your Name, and this is the CBS News World recap. Tonight, we're following the escalating tensions between Iran and the United States. In a significant development, former U.S. President Donald Trump announced a naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, a crucial waterway connecting the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman. The move has raised concerns among global leaders and oil traders. The Strait of Hormuz has been a focal point of tensions between the U.S. and Iran since 2019, when a U.S. drone was shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile. The incident sparked a series of retaliatory attacks on U.S. military personnel and ships in the region. The U.S. has since increased its military presence in the area, with a naval task force dispatched to protect American interests. Trump's announcement of a naval blockade is seen as a significant escalation of the conflict. The move is likely to further restrict Iranian oil exports, which are already facing significant pressure due to U.S. sanctions. This could lead to a global shortage of oil, driving up prices and exacerbating economic instability. The international community is watching the situation closely, with many leaders urging restraint. The United Nations has called for calm and a return to diplomacy. The U.S. and Iran have been engaged in a series of diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict, but tensions remain high. As the situation continues to unfold, one thing is clear. The Strait of Hormuz is a critical flashpoint in a global conflict that could have far-reaching consequences. A major escalation in tensions between the U.S. and Iran has led to a shocking new threat from President Trump, one that could have far-reaching consequences. The collapse of peace talks between the U.S. and Iran has led to a dramatic escalation of tensions in the region. The negotiations, which took place in Islamabad, aim to bring an end to 6 weeks of costly warfare and to find a solution to Iran's closure of the shipping lane in the Strait of Hormuz. However, after just 21 hours, the talks failed, with no progress made and both sides continuing to dig in. The collapse of the talks has led to a resumption of Trump's bombastic threats, with the U.S. president declaring that the U.S. will blockade the Strait of Hormuz. Trump wrote on Truth Social, "Effective immediately, the United States Navy, the finest in the world, will begin the process of blockading any and all ships trying to enter or leave the Strait of Hormuz." He later told Fox News that NATO allies, whom he has criticized for failing to back the war, wanted to help with the operation in the strait. Iran's Revolutionary Guards have warned that any U.S. warships approaching the strait to carry out a blockade will be considered in breach of the ceasefire and will be dealt with strongly. This has prompted fears that the conflict could reignite just days after a 2-week ceasefire was agreed. The involvement of NATO allies, including the UK, has added to the complexity of the situation, with concerns that British warships may not be involved in the operation. The blockade of the Strait of Hormuz would have significant implications for global oil supplies, with the region producing over 40% of the world's oil. As tensions in the Middle East escalate, the U.S. military has made a significant move, announcing its intention to significantly disrupt Iranian shipping in the region. Good evening, I'm your name, and this is the news recap. We're coming to you live from our newsroom, where we're tracking a developing story. The United States has announced plans to blockade Iranian traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway that connects the Persian Gulf to the open sea. According to the U.S. Central Command, the blockade will begin at 1400 hours Greenwich Mean Time, marking a significant escalation of tensions between the two nations. The move is seen as a response to Iran's seizure of oil tankers and its alleged involvement in maritime incidents in the region. Iranian officials have warned that the blockade will lead to even higher prices at the pump, which could have far-reaching consequences for global energy markets. The Iranian government has also threatened to retaliate against the U.S., but so far, no specific actions have been announced. The blockade is a highly sensitive issue, with the U.S. and Iran already at odds over a range of issues, including nuclear proliferation and regional security. The move has been condemned by some in the international community, who fear it could lead to further instability in the region. As the situation continues to unfold, we'll be keeping a close eye on developments. We'll bring you updates and analysis as more information becomes available. For now, the U.S. and Iran are locked in a tense standoff, with the fate of the global energy market hanging in the balance. And that's all for tonight's special report. Thank you for joining us as we brought you the latest updates on the escalating crisis in the Middle East. We'll continue to provide you with breaking news and in-depth analysis. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more updates and insights. Stay informed, stay ahead of the curve. We'll be back with more news as it happens. Good night.